Hello everyone, so welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Afini, and if you're not, then welcome back. So today I'm going to be recording a little book video, I guess. I'm going to be going through books that I've read so far this year, and one of my New Year's resolutions was to read just as many books as I can. Last year I didn't read that many. I mean, I read quite a good amount, but I would say I read about 6 books last year, which is okay, but it's not great. I really wanted to hit like the 30+ mark this year, just because I'm graduating. I'm gonna have more time to read, and I love to read, and it's kind of hard fitting in reading in my daily life just with uni. I feel like I don't have as much time as I would like to read for fun because of how much reading I do for uni, but I've been getting at it. I've been prioritizing reading more. Like when I wake up, before I go to bed, I take a book out with me now so I can read on the tube, or just read when I have like a spare 5 or 10 minutes, which massively makes a difference. I've been doing good this year. Since January, I've read like 4 or 5 books, which I'm going to be talking about today. I've kind of switched up from books I normally read, in terms of, in previous years I would always stick to reading like really academic books or non-fiction or kind of really deep philosophical books, absurdist, existential, and I think I fell into that trap of just reading that because I really wanted to, like, I don't know, grow my knowledge and become a really big thinker. But I've realised reading for fun is just so much more enjoyable. You know, just getting into a story, actually just appreciating the story in itself. That doesn't need to be overly deep or philosophical. It could just be reading for fun. I hope you enjoy. If you're not subscribed already, like and subscribe. If you already are, thank you so much. But yeah, I'm really trying to grow my YouTube channel this year, so just make sure you like and subscribe, and yeah, I'll just get on with the video. So the first book that I read this year is The Lovely Bones by Alice Sebold, and you may have heard of it from the movie, which I watched a couple years ago. But it's basically about a girl who gets murdered, and she is narrating the book from her perspective after she has died, and she watches over her friends and family, and just without having too much interaction with what they're doing, is just observing what they're doing, and basically wants to find justice for what happened to her. And yeah, I watched the movie kind of just after it came out, like years ago. I think it came out, I don't know, maybe like 2015, sometime around then. But the film has Saoirse Ronan in it, I think I'm pronouncing that right, and Stanley Tucci, which I didn't even realise he was in this because he looks completely different. But anyways, go watch the movie, it's really good. But I also recommend the book. I picked up the book late December, so I'm going to count it in this video, but I actually brought it years ago. I'm pretty sure I brought it in charity shop, and it's been sat on my shelf for so long, and I thought it was finally time to pick it up and read it. I really enjoyed this book. I thought it'd be different than what I thought, if that makes sense. Like, I was kind of going off of seeing the movie, what I thought the book would be like, but it was completely different to that, and I just really enjoyed it. Like, the perspective of her after she's died, like, I can see where it is in the movie, if that makes sense, but in the book it's just so much more in depth. I think you earn like a greater understanding and appreciation of what happened, and kind of her process and accepting what's happened, and basically letting her family heal from everything that's happened. It's really sad. It's actually so sad. I don't want to spoil it, but towards the end I was just more happy reading it, because I guess a sense of justice is achieved, and I was just very happy that that happened. And it wasn't a completely sad book, but yeah, that was the first book I read this year, and I finished it the start of January, and yeah, it exceeded my expectations. This is the next book that I read this year, and this is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, and I had to get a classic in this year. I think it was off to a good start. I thought, okay, I read a sort of novel, let me go with a classic, and I have always wanted to read this book, and I picked it up again years ago. And I actually picked it up not because of the cover, but I wanted to read it, and it's one of those hardback like editions with a little print, and when I saw it in a bookshop I thought this needs to be on my shelf, and so yeah, I brought it. Once I got into it and once I kind of understood the writing style, I got hooked. Like I literally could not put this book down, and it was again not what I thought it would be. I think my understanding of the book before I'd read it was just this classic, not classic, but like I just thought the book would be this like stereotypical like monster story. Like I didn't think it would be how it was, if that made sense. Like I was genuinely like moved by this book and the messages that it had about morality, humanity, and just how we, I guess, treat people. I just did not expect it, but I guess it's acclaimed for a reason, so I think I should have expected it. So this book, I actually think it's in my favourites now, and I'm so annoyed that it took me that long to read it, but it's just amazing. Like this story, how it portrays the monster, you definitely gain this sense of empathy from him and why he goes through what he has to, and how it's kind of like seems unfair for him. He just wants to, I guess, he wants to feel loved, and he wants to feel like he's a part of something, and he's like automatically excluded from everything. No one wants to give him like the benefit of the doubt. It's just automatically assume he's going to be violent, and I guess that perception of him turns the monster violent, which is not his fault. He was just created. I thought it would be one of those books where, okay, the monster's going around like killing people and we don't like him, but this was not the case for this. And there's a section of the book where he like sits down and the book basically shifts to his perspective and relays the story of what happened from his perspective, and it just changes your perception of him. And I also realized that the monster is not called Frankenstein, and I always thought that when I was younger. I just assumed that the monster was called Frankenstein, but the creator is called Frankenstein. So yeah, I found that out when I was reading it, because I thought, why is it beginning from Frankenstein's perspective? And then I got to reading it and I realized that the creator is Frankenstein. But yeah, this book just made me think differently about things, I think. And just the words used in this book, I was just like, I don't know, I was like in awe at. Yeah, the words used in this book, like the descriptions and the setting, the scene, it was just like, you feel like you're there, like you can see like the setting of the book just on how well it's described. I would definitely, again, recommend this. I feel like I'm just going to recommend all these books in this video because they're all just amazing. I just loved the description, I love the imagery in it, and there were actually sections that I kind of flagged because I just loved how they were written. And yeah, I just love this book, and the cover just makes it even better. Okay, so the next book I'm going to talk about is a book that I haven't actually finished, and I only just started reading it, but I had to put it down because it was just a little bit too intellectual for me right now. Because I'm doing so much work with uni, I just could not focus on it. Like at the moment, all I need is books that are just easy to read, have clear storylines, not clear storylines, but I just don't need anything too intellectually stimulating right now. So I started to read A Brief History of Time, and I made it to page 6. I literally made it to page 6 before I had to put it down because it was just, my brain was working overtime to understand it. Not even that bad, like as in the first couple pages weren't even that like insane, but I just knew I couldn't get into this right now. There was just a lot of science that I had to comprehend, and I'm gonna save this for when I'm a little bit more free and have time to kind of take all this in. But I thought I'd read it because I really enjoyed Brief Answers to the Big Questions, which was Stephen Hawking's last book he published before he died. I will come back to this. You will see this in another video when I have finished it, but for now it's going back on the shelf. So the next book I read this year was in February, and it is Heaven by Maiko Kawakami, and I feel like everyone has just been talking about this book. I keep seeing it on TikTok. Yeah, so I picked up this book because I just kept seeing it all over TikTok, and I thought, if everyone's reading it, I feel like I have to. So I went straight onto Amazon, bought it, and yeah, it only took me a couple of days to read this. It's actually a really short book. It's only like 100 or so pages, maybe 200, I don't know, but yeah, it's quite a little book, and I really enjoyed this. I didn't enjoy reading it. It's very sad, but as in, I liked the book. It was not what I thought it would be. I thought it would be like, I don't know, like a kind of like, oh, like book, but it was like, oh, like, yeah. The main character in this book goes through a lot of torment, bullying, ridicule, and it's just so sad what he goes through. He basically gets picked on, well, not even just picked on, he just gets harassed pretty much because he has a lazy eye, and he basically becomes friends with another girl in his class who also gets bullied really extremely, just because, well, she smells. In the book they say she smells and she wears like ugly clothes, so she gets made fun of, and it's so sad what these two people go through, and they basically find a friendship through that. They have like a common, not even a common interest, they have a common experience that they bond over, and it's devastating what happens in this book. And I don't want to spoil it too much, but yeah, they go through some shit together. So they have their friendship in secret, and it's something that they can talk about with each other. They begin writing letters to each other, and it's really sad because you see their friendship blossom, and they learn so much about each other, learn a lot about themselves, and they open up to each other when, I guess for neither of them, they've never had that, and it's just devastating. It gets taken away from them, and I don't want to spoil it too much, but you need to read it. I want to read more books by Maiko Kawakami, and I've heard a lot about Breast and Eggs, which is meant to be really good, and I'm not sure if all her work is sad, I guess, but I want to read more. I really like the writing style. I mean, it is translated from Japanese, but I liked how the story was written. Yeah, so if you need a really sad book to read this. It will probably break your heart. So back onto my little philosophy grind, I picked up The Outsider or The Stranger by Albert Camus, and I didn't realise that The Outsider and The Stranger were the same book, different names, but it is. And I actually went to this bookshop on Brick Lane, and I just saw it and I thought, I need to read this. I just kept hearing about it from uni and references to it, and I thought, I've never actually read any Camus, so I thought, let me just do that. And I didn't realise how little this book is. I literally thought like it was going to be some massive book, and when I saw it I was like, oh, like why have I not read this before? Like it's literally like the shortest book ever. It's a little novella, I guess you could say. I was surprised because I always thought Camus' work was like this really in-depth philosophical, not that it isn't, it definitely is, but as in the format of the book, I thought it was like easy to read, and it's a nice book to get into philosophy, or just have a philosophical book that isn't like direct philosophical, like in your face, like this is logic, this is everything. Like this was more of a come to your own thoughts on philosophy after reading this book. I kind of got like Franz Kafka vibes from this, as in like the kind of tone of the book, if that makes sense. It just had this kind of like, I guess, dark, absurdist tone to it, which I kind of had like a similar sense when I read The Trial. It's about this man and his mother dies, and from the events after, I guess his life just kind of takes a turn and he ends up doing something he shouldn't have, I guess, but to him he doesn't really care. Yeah, basically he ends up murdering someone, which I guess isn't a spoiler, like it's literally like on the back, but he ends up murdering someone after his mother dies, and it just follows that story and where it leads him. And I just, from other philosophy books I've read, I feel like I gained much more of an understanding about what this book was trying to say in comparison to books that are like more direct in terms of this is about morality, this is about societal norms, but this was more of a, like, it is a story, it's a novel, and I enjoyed reading it, and I want to read more Camus because I can see why every philosophy student loves him, you know. And I've heard a lot about him before just from philosophy modules I've taken, and I never read into it too much because I don't know, I have no excuse. But yeah, this is, it's up there in my favourite books now. And yeah, just the way this book is set, like even just the weather, like the kind of, it's described, so it's basically, it's set in Algiers, and the kind of heat of the weather as this story is taking place, like just that alone adds this kind of pressure to the book, and how the main character is like just under these like hot conditions, and I guess it kind of forces him to act out. And I guess it's a nice metaphor for, you know, I'm going to turn into a little philosophy nerd now, but I don't know, it's a kind of nice metaphor on how, like, I guess social pressures or pressures people face can push them to do, I guess, bad things. But I guess it's up to the person to decide if it's considered bad. And basically the main character goes through this kind of like questioning of, he doesn't see himself as a criminal, but everyone around him, I guess, sees him as that, and at the end of the day he is a criminal, he commits a crime, he's in, I'm not going to say any more, but it just comes to this nice understanding, or this kind of debate of, you know, what is really bad, what is good, and, you know, does the law say or determine if something's good or bad or not, which I guess it does, but if the person doesn't care and they don't see it as that, like, what does that mean? But yeah, I don't know, read this book, come to your own thoughts about it, but I need to watch some analysis videos or read some analysis essays just to kind of get more at what he was trying to say in this book. But I think I got what he was trying to say, but I just want to see some other opinions on it just to get my understanding more of it, because it was just a book that I didn't expect to like so much, and I really did. So well done, Camus, you know, you're famous for a reason. But yeah, if you have any Camus recommendations, please recommend them to me, because he's a legend and I need to read more of his work. I'm just looking at the back. Apparently The Fall and The Plague are some other critically acclaimed books, so maybe I should check them out. But yeah, that is another book I read. I read that, when did I read this? I read this at the start of March. I read this in like a couple of days, because again, it's kind of small, but yeah. So the final book I'm going to be talking about is, little drum roll, My Year of Rest and Relaxation. And I know what you're thinking, I'm insufferable. All the books I've chosen to read this year so far have just been typical, I'm an insufferable person, but I promise you I'm not. But I just thought I'd read the books that people keep talking about and I haven't yet gone to, so, you know, maybe you'll see a change in what I read from this video. But yeah, so I'm still reading this. I'm not gonna say too much about it because I haven't, you know, I haven't finished it. My thoughts so far is that I can see why it's kind of associated with this like insufferable person, femcel culture. But yeah, it follows this girl who's very privileged and she lives in New York, and she's deciding to take her year of rest and relaxation. For her, rest and relaxation means hibernating, sleeping, drinking, just, you know, being self-destructive, I guess you could say. And it's just about her pushing away people, and so far I'm not sure how the story is going to go, just based on, at the moment it's just setting up the scene of this is what she's up to at the moment. She used to have a job, she left it, she was bad at her job, I guess you could say. She didn't really care, she was sleeping at work, which is understandable. I don't blame her, you know, she did what she needed to do, but it goes down a path which leads her to, I guess, become a little recluse, and I'm just intrigued as to where this is going to go. I feel like she's going to do something really like destructive or really bad, but I'm not sure where it's going to go. It could just be one of those books where she just goes on this like non-stop path of self-destruction, but it kind of gave me vibes of like female Catcher in the Rye. I think that's a good comparison, but yeah, it's going good. It's got a nice flow to it. I haven't been like bored of it, I guess. Sometimes when I read books I get really bored, and that's why I don't end up reading books as much as I want to, but I feel like I've had a good selection of books this year so far, and yeah, this is the book I'm currently reading, and just got a text. But yeah, I'm gonna finish this and I'll be back to tell you my thoughts on it. So I'm just gonna end the video here because that is all I've read so far, and I think it's a good selection of books. Like, I shouldn't even include Stephen Hawking in that actually, because I didn't read it. I started to read it and I just gave up. This is what I read so far, plus this, so we're off to a good start, but I'll hopefully do another one of these when I've read a few more books. I kind of want to make it a little series of what I've read this year, just to keep track of it, because I love to read and I guess I don't document my thoughts on it as much as I would like to, so I'm gonna be doing that. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you have any book recommendations, leave them in the comments. I just want to start reading more and reading more types of books, more genres. I just want to expand my taste a little bit, and yeah, I'll see you in my next video, and remember to like and subscribe.